G'day Mindstars, welcome to Unpack, the show about life Now, Unpack is about having raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life and hearing their remarkable stories of well-being and resilience. And today, I'm delighted to have Justin Geange with us. Justin is a field officer with Mates in Construction, but where else do we go with that? Field officer, Mates in Construction, actor, singer, presenter, ex-politician,
supermodel.
Yeah. How are you, mate?
Great good, mate. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, mate. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
So, what do you all those roles? What are you working on at the moment?
Just being a good dad. I think that's probably my most challenging role at the moment. But look, I day in day out deal with tough stuff and people, really doing it tough. And so it's important to have that balance, that you've got to have, the light and the shade, the yin and the yang for what gives you balance. So yeah, it's important to me.
So let's get started into the well-being stuff. I think a good place to start is for you. What is well-being for you? How do you define it? And in a practical sense, how do you live that in your life? Or how does that fit into your life?
Yeah, it's a great question. Something that I'm still getting better at day in, day out. I think as someone with a mental illness and a lived experience of suicide, it's important that I maintain balance. Balance is key, and it's when I get out of balance that struggle street comes. Yeah. And so for me, it's following hard after what I do. It's my passion. My work is my passion. People are my passion. But then I need to balance that out with, friends and family and things that bring me joy, like, a good massage and music. I love music, and that's part of my makeup. And then, a bit of that, hard to believe looking at me, but I enjoy a nice walk in the forest or on the beach or something like that. As much as I loathe sometimes going for a run or for a walk, you always come back feeling, G'd up. There's something about that, and I should do more of it. And the buzz, when I'm singing, my biggest thing is to try and put smiles on faces. Yes. And so when I sing and tell me jokes and all that sort of stuff, if I can see a smile, then that's another little endorphin, thing going off inside me. Just it brings me joy if I can bring other people joy.
What do you think about the idea of balance? Like, how do you talk about how you're looking for that balance in your life? What is that?
Yeah, it's something because I'm so passionate about one area. It's so easy to get the quadrant out of shape. But I still need to be aware of it for my own well-being and my own health. And so I suppose when I'm not seeing that, I need some good scaffolding around me to remind me of, that there's sort of my scaffolding around my balance sort of things like my wife is, huge. You haven't gone for a run, or you get out of the house, go for a walk, or go and karaoke tonight. Don't worry about me or the kids. Yep. Go and do something that she knows exactly the ticks in the boxes that I need to do to regain that balance for me.
So you've talked about your mental health and your well-being. I mean, was there a point in your life when you realised you had to focus more on your well-being, or was there a time when none of that balance was there? Yeah,
look. So I was doing everything and anything. I was, that's the manic side of my bipolar. Was just I had to do everything, and as a result,
diagnosed with bipolar, have you?
Yeah. So bipolar type 2. I was getting pumped up by all the adrenaline of all these activities that I was doing, and as a result, everything that I was facing was all circumstantial stuff. And so I took my eyes off the family and took my eyes off, walking and all those sort of things, because I was so busy doing what I had in front of me.
What kind of things?
Oh, look, let's run for election. Let's go on reality TV. Let's, all those sort of...
what was on reality TV?
So Australia's Got Talent. So, yeah.
So you were a contestant, went on there?
Yeah, got through the semi-finals, did me thing, and and like so many reality TV experiences, it ended in heartache. And but you know, look, that's what it is.
Pretty impressive to get through the semis. I mean, that
yeah, I don't want to brag, but I'm amazing. Mate. Just, it's like going from this big, you know, excitement down to nothing.
Yeah.
You come from the back of an election, you know, experience and a reality TV experience to potential job loss and potentially not being able to, you know, support my family that I loved. So yeah. So that was the, you know, my boss tried to catch me early. Like he kept taking me out, and that's when I was diagnosed. So he kept taking me out, going, mate, what's going on? You okay?
So you didn't know at that point. You hadn't been diagnosed, so you just been new. And just riding the wave.
Yeah.
What did it feel like being in? What was it like being in that place? You know, in that state. What was it?
Yeah, look, it's. I suppose if I could put a word on it, I'd say numb. So it's that feeling of numbness, not being able to come up with any solutions to your perceived challenges that you're facing.
Yeah.
And were you really facing challenges? And so that was, it's hard to describe, but that's how I describe it. It's that numbness of, how do I get myself out of this? I had no answers. And as a result, my boss was picking up on those cues, which was great, and kept taking me out for coffees, mate. What's going on? What's going on? You okay? And you know, a typical bloke would say, no, I'm right, mate. Yeah, and that's, do you know what? The most important part of those conversations that we had before I reached out and said, no, I'm not good, was that I knew someone cared enough to have a conversation with me. I wasn't giving them the answer that they knew and were waiting for, but he kept persisting, he kept taking me out, and that speaks volumes.
It's pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not done enough, but I mean, yeah, it's simple in the fact it doesn't, if you were that person, it doesn't take a lot to just connect. It's a coffee.
Absolutely.
It's a coffee and an ear, I imagine. You know.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Well, yeah. Finally, I said, "Nah, mate, I'm not doing okay." And he said, "Well, you know, we've all noticed." I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough."
What have they noticed?
Oh, I changed, mate. You know, they noticed those little changes, things that I'd be there the early bird, you know, and I was just rocking up on time, which was unusual, you know, and my desk would usually have knickknacks left, right and centre, and I'd stripped it down to just the minimum of what was needed to do my job. So they noticed bits and pieces like that, so that's not like you, that's out of character, and so yeah, they took action, and his action was calling me out on it. He let me talk. He didn't judge, he didn't, you know, try and fix it. As a matter of fact, he said, mate, I don't know what to do. How about we call the doctors?
Yep.
Cool. So I went back to his office and made the call to the GP. So,
looking back, and it's hypothetical, but I mean, if he hadn't done that, what do you think might have happened?
Yeah. I think probably the worst.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is what?
It was suicide attempt, at least. Yeah. And that's where it's at, unfortunately. And we see that all too often, and I see that all too often in what I do day in, day out.
It's almost like him connecting with the doctor. What was happening in your mind at that time? Were you going, thank God someone's doing it for me, or helping me to do that, or were you kicking and screaming, or still in denial, or where were you at? Yeah,
see, I was at a point of exhaustion. So it had been a big year. It was, and we're facing some tough stuff. But the last thing I wanted to do was reach out. So if someone didn't reach out to me, I wouldn't be reaching out to anyone. So that's so often we say, you know, put your hand up if you're doing it tough. Put your hand up. You know, go and there's so many services out there. But at the end of the day, look, it's important that we get our mates to reach out to us, and
completely.
And so for me, in that state of exhaustion, I suppose, it was about my mates reaching out for me. And that's
why don't we reach out? Why do blokes, even when we know it, on the inside that we need the help, we want the help, why don't we?
I go back to what my dad taught me many things, and probably one of those things was that, son, you're the man that's supposed to be holding all this together. I remember my dad, and we learned these lessons. You know, when he was doing it tough, he would go into his garage.
Yeah.
We wouldn't see him. He'd be tinkering. He'd be just withdrawing from all of his normal supports.
Yeah.
So that's what I've learned, and that's what I'm sure he learned from his father.
Was there a point in your life that you realised, well, you know, your well-being was important, or that you struggled with it, or, you know, some of those messages that your old man passed down and society passes down to young blokes? You know, I think it was a bit of a different world back then. But what was that journey for you?
Yeah, look, I made a fair few bad choices, as we do as young fellas, and
What do you mean? What sort of bad choices?
oh, look, you know, just drinking, relationships, all those sort of things that ultimately led to suicide attempts and rehab and
By
breakdowns.
you?
And yeah.
How old were you then?
So between the age of 14, 15, right up to 17 before I came over.
Yeah.
After school, look, I'd be singing in pubs and clubs and doing theatre and stuff like that, and you know, parties, and then the next day you crash party, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty aggressive sort of cycle to be in, and ultimately it sort of, you know, it almost took me out a couple of times. So I remember once I liked a girl on the other end of the country, and so I decided to hitchhike, and I knocked on her door and she wasn't home. So I had to sleep in the park and then, you know, go on my next adventure. It was
Wow. And
bizarre things, yeah.
And was there joy in it? Were you in a different time? Sounds like you was up and down, but I mean,
Yeah.
at the time,
I felt like a grown-up, mate.
I'm living. This is
Yeah.
wild.
I was a grown-up.
Yeah.
I'm making my own choices.
Yeah.
They're not real flash choices, but I'm making them.
Sounds like a movie. It's like highs and lows. You know,
Yeah.
you're living on the edge of, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I think which a lot of us probably did through our adolescent and early 20s. You sort of live in the moment, you know,
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
But I'm interested, and it's something that people really don't like to talk about, but I think it's important that we talk about it more. You've gone from the highs, then you hit the lows. For you, because I think it's different for everyone. What is it? What is it about wanting to kill yourself? What is it about the actual decision to go?
Yeah.
I'm out. You know what I mean? Like what was it for you that? What was it? What was it? Was there thinking, or was it just a reaction, or anger, or what?
Unfortunately, there's been multiple different things for me, and I know some have been knee-jerk, so relationship breakdown. But I think for most of my journey, it's been about this is all too hard. I've got so much going on. I don't really want to die, but you know what? If I wasn't here, then that actually takes that burden off me, mum and dad. It takes the burden off the people that I care about, and it takes the burden off me having to face these feelings all the time.
Yeah.
So sadly, that's the reality of where I was at.
Like a weight.
Yeah. And so it's like a solution in your own head. It's not. I use the analogy of sitting in the front row of the movies. You're so caught up in your circumstance and everything that's going on at that time that you don't actually see the big picture like you do sitting in the back row. So in the back row you got the whole picture and you can see the big picture.
Yeah.
And when you're in the front row, you got the blinkers on to a point. You're not actually seeing the possibilities of what happened as a result of your actions.
Yeah. How many times have you tried to kill yourself?
So it would be about 7 times.
7 times. What happens? It's probably different multiple times, but what kind of emotions or thinking is there when you?
Yeah. My last attempt, and that's a few years ago. Now the feeling of complete failure. So
right?
Yeah, it's for me it was a solution for all the problems.
Yeah.
And now I've just not only were things bad, now I've just escalated everything. So I had no concept that my actions would have an impact on people that I cared about. I knew they'd have an impact on the people that were closest to me. But a mate of mine paints a picture at suicide's like a hand grenade. It doesn't just affect those closest to you, but the shrapnel spreads far and wide.
That's so good.
The impact of what I did on so many of the people that I cared about at work and my community. I had no comprehension, and that, I think that was the jolt.
Yep.
That was the thing that said, no, hang on. That sort of changed my way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because I'd constantly come to and I'm a failure and rah, 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 and all of a sudden, hang on, no, there's people relying on me. There's got to be a shift. There's got to be a change. And that was it for me.
If you're starting to think like that, the people who are in your life, your parents, your partner, your kids, if you start to think they're going to be better off without you, you need to reach out to someone and connect. Because that's almost a sign to me, isn't it? It's like
100%.
You've lost a bit of perspective, a lot of perspective there.
Yeah. It's so important to recognise it in yourself, but it's so important to have conversations before you get to that point. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like day in, day out, we have conversations with people who are at that point. Yeah. And it would be so much easier if we could, identify stuff before it becomes about suicide, before it becomes about, those sort of things. So
what are some of the things that you think that people should look out for?
Yeah, look, it's a lot of the research that we've gone through with work and stuff like that. It's been identified things like relationship breakdown, financial struggles, work pressures. A lot of those things send us all sideways. We all go through that, but sometimes we go through one thing after another, losing someone you care about, banks on your back, you've got, and that's putting pressure on your marriage, and that's, the kids are playing up, and then all of a sudden you've got this culmination. So if someone's going through all of these, life issues that we all go through from time to time, then you just got to start looking out for some of those changes that you might see. Yeah. So what we say is, look for those invitations, look for those red flags that someone could be doing it tough, especially if they're going through some stuff. And you said earlier on as well, trust your gut too. Yeah. If your gut's telling you there's something going on with your mate, well, chances are that's the time to take 10 seconds of courage and actually have a conversation that could change their life.
What's the best way to ask the question? Or if you've got that gut feeling and, and like, oh, my mate's not my work colleague, whoever it is. Yeah. What's the? How do you approach it?
See, I call them out, mate. I've noticed you not turning up on time like you used to do, and mate, you're saying this negative stuff. You don't usually say that sort of stuff, and I know you're going through stuff with your job and stuff like that, mate. Anyone going through any of those things could be thinking about suicide. Are you thinking about suicide? Yeah. So all of a sudden you're normalising everything. You're not pointing fingers or anything like that. Yes. You're saying, mate, this is what I've noticed. Yep. Do you know, anyone going through that might be thinking about suicide. And at the end of the day, you're asking someone this question. It's a tough question to ask, but it's a necessary one. Yeah, of course. You ask them because you care. And if you care enough, then they're not going to judge you or anything like that, mate. You go, far out, mate, that's a pretty tough question for you to ask. As a matter of fact, I am. Or, no, mate, I'm not. But struggling to pay the mortgage at the moment. Okay, well, how about let's call someone. Let's make a phone call. Let's go and visit someone. So
because no one's ever, and I think people get scared they're gonna make it worse by asking, but you can't do it. You can't do any harm. People know you care. I think that's really important because we don't talk about it enough. Men don't talk about it enough. So that's fantastic. I want to hear about how you went from your experience and the change from at that point in time when you were, you maybe realised you weren't becoming Prime Minister. You got to the semis of Australia, got talent, you potentially losing a job. Can you step me through what I think must have taken courage and purpose and to actually go from there to the amazing role that you play now, mentoring and looking out for blokes?
Yeah, look, I'd like to say it was, instant success sort of thing. Mate, I was in a dark space for about 3 years. It was numb. It was forever. If you're living in that black room, I don't know if it's just you're consumed, you're lethargic. Yeah. You've got no vision, no purpose. Mate, I was on different medication and I was on seeing different people and all that sort of stuff. And And I began to challenge the doctors, and I began to challenge the people that I was seeing. It was about finding the right fit for me. So it was like, no, this isn't working. This person over here. I use the analogy, mate, if I have a bad pizza, I don't stop eating pizza, I just go to a different pizza shop. For me, it was relationship. Like, I'll go to some counsellors that, you know, they don't look at you. You know, they're thinking about their chicken dinner that night. You know, it's like, you know, they're not part of the conversation. And this guy came into my life, and he was just fair dinkum. He had holes in his pants. He was genuine. He had great advice and gave me some great strategies on how to take one step in front of the other. You know, it's like with exercise. You don't just run a marathon. You actually start off with 1K, then you do a couple of Ks, and then there's a couple of 5K fun runs, and then, you know, there's colour run, and all those sort of things, and then you build up to that marathon. And that's like I'd reached rock bottom. I'd hit rock bottom. And he managed to get me crawling, and he got me walking, and then he got me running, and he says, well, let's think about work. And so I got some part-time work as a peer support worker in mental health. And mate, that was a transforming, because you can be really all about you and stuff like that, but as soon as you're working with other people that have got so much going on in their lives, you start to gain a wider worldview of what plays important roles in our world, and then I kept sharing my story, kept talking with people, and as I shared my story, other people would share their stories, and it actually gave permission for people to be fair dinkum with where they're at. Brilliant. And that brings me to where I am today, getting a gig with mates, and so.
Were you scared coming into it?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, like, I think it's a huge, massive step, isn't it, into the unknown.
And there's a lot of things that I wasn't, you know, I'm confident in my own abilities, but doing something that I've never done before, it's always, you know, rattles your cage.
There's a point almost where you've got to take that scary step. There are so many people that, you know, sitting in jobs they hate, feeling miserable, feeling trapped, and I think it takes a step off the cliff, you know, to actually go. You just got to find. To me, it's the difference between a career and a calling. You know, it's actually do something that you're into.
It's a privilege, mate. It's a privilege to be able to do what I, you know, to be available to people when they're in the hardest place. To lend that air, to, you know, to be there for them, and it's if you build it, they will come. That's pretty much where it's at, and that's where my life is now. And a friend of mine, he said, mate, it took you to almost lose your life to actually find your life, and find my passion, find my calling, and you know what, if all of that goes away, if my job goes away, I'm still going to be there for people, you know, because that's I know that's what I'm here for, you know, to try and be some sort of conduit from keeping people off the edge. So.
Mate, well, it's been an absolute privilege talking to you. You're an inspiration, and you know, you're just your honesty and your authenticity and your vulnerability. You know, I think we need thousands more like you, and I think just keep doing what you're doing. It's so important.
Nelson Mandela had a fantastic quote. I love this. It's don't judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fall down and get back up again. Wow. So we're all going to fall down at some stage. The important thing, I think, for someone that you care about is making sure that you're there to help them back up again. So as a mate, helping a mate back up again, as a wife, helping your husband back up again, as a mother, as a father. It's about knowing that, you know, sometimes life is going to happen and it's going to knock us sideways, but we need to be there for each other. We need to be genuine, we need to be authentic, we need to provide that support to help someone back up again, because that's what's most important.
And that's human, isn't it? That's brilliant.
100%.
Awesome, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
So, thank you so much for joining us again for Unpack. Another amazing chat with an amazing bloke. So, I look forward to connecting with you again. Don't forget, subscribe, sign up, comment, share. Let's really give this this issue a real shake. This is a movement. Let's keep having these conversations. So yeah, be kind to yourself and the people around you, and yeah, love your work. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, mate.